We are in the game, and up at the top part of the map, we have our blue Protoss player, our reigning Fight Club champion. From the team StarTale, it is none other than StarTale.HyuN. And down at the bottom of the map, we have our red Zerg player from Team SCV Life, or the SCV Life, depending on how you want to do TSL. It is none other than HyuN, a good Brood War player, switched to StarCraft 2, and probably one of my favorite Zergs out there right now to watch. They say he's the best in the team house, too, for TSL. Okay. So we'll see how he does today. You got to give Squirtle the advantage overall, I think, but HyuN could certainly take it.
And we've kind of joked before that they are the... have kind of become the drone life recently, TDL, more than anything else. But of their Zerg players, I mean, obviously, Symbol's been performing really, really well lately. They've got some other guys that have been stepping up in Team League situations, but HyuN has been starting to post those 1v1 results that we kind of, I guess, anticipated maybe a couple of months ago.
Yeah, I believe Symbol actually beat Squirtle, too, in a match. I can't remember what it was in, but I believe he beat Squirtle in a best of not too long ago, maybe a month or two ago. It's bugging me that I can't remember the event now. But that's so I think he has lost to TSL Zerg players in the past. They are very good. HyuN, though, you know, to his maybe disadvantage, is a very standard Zerg player right now in ZVP. He follows the metagame pretty strictly in most of his games, and that has led to kind of a disadvantage from time to time, despite his win rate. He's got amazing mechanics, but in terms of holding off mid-game pushes, a lot of two-base Protoss pushes have been really good against HyuN. If you look at his recent games against Genius in Code A, Genius won by just doing very strong mid-game two-base pushes. HyuN played standard, couldn't hold him.
And now Squirtle is proactively taking out this natural. He actually sat that down and then moved to probe out. Was a little bit late on Forge time. He actually sent that probe out there quite a bit, but he's getting down a nice early Forge. It's going to be finished up here momentarily. So he is very, very intent on blocking these hatches as long as possible.
Yeah, it's good to do that too. I mean, the sooner the Zerg gets their hatches down, the sooner their economy gets up and running. So it's pretty simple math to want to do that. He's doing a great job of it, too. Wow, that drone just cannot get that hatchery down, and that is so annoying. If the Protoss player can get their drone to the third base before the Zerg player gets the drone there, their probe rather, you can really, really slow Zerg down. You can see HyuN making some Zerglings on the production queue right now, so he's going to be able to clean out and take his base at his natural, too, but, man, that really, really slowed him down.
Yes, it did. As natural just on the way, and as we can see, despite the pretty early Forge there, Gateway coming up just after the Nexus was started as well, that is going to be a very nice, safe early Nexus for Squirtle. He's defending it quite well now, and looks like he's actually going to go ahead and full wall off up the front.
Yep. And so that could mean a number of different things. The most likely is that he's planning on taking a third base. On a map like Metropolis, Protoss players usually do that. You know, they wall off completely, then they break down the destructible rocks a little bit later. But, you know, we do see Stargate play on this map every once in a while, where it's not close air positions. I don't think he's going to go for it this time around, but we'll have to see what he has planned. He's got a good amount of options, and HyuN's going to try his best to find out what those are.
That's true. So Cybernetic Score will be coming up here in just a second. He does have a pylon pretty far forward. Once he eventually cleans out the Overlord or gets it away, you will be able to put some tech there if he so desires. A couple of gas finishing up for Squirtle, but he was actually going after what we've seen out of some Protoss players recently. Put up that first gas a lot earlier than the second one. Putting up that first gas when you would normally see two drop down at the same time going into the second one afterwards. Unless you get those gateways a little bit quicker, hit a little bit earlier attack, some players will use this as a key to Robo, but Squirtle also has the option of double gassing a little bit quicker over at the third, so it gave him that initial boost of minerals, and then can put up heavy tech, Stargate, something like that afterwards.
Well, since he hasn't started +1 weapons or anything like that yet, I would imagine that you're probably right. It probably is going to be Robo, and that would go along with his plan of taking a third base rather quick, so sounds quite plausible to me. We'll have to see what he decides to actually do, but I'd say it's a safe bet. Now, back on the HyuN side of things, nothing out of the ordinary as well. At around the 6-minute mark is usually when he adds his first two gases, like 6 to 6:30, depending on how the early game went. Maybe a little bit later this time around as he gets his drone count up to the normal amount. But, you know, we'll see what he does. This is another map, too, where Zerg does like to play pretty standard, not a lot of huge roach aggression or anything like that, just enough to stay safe while you get your infestation bit going and get going towards that hive tech. And, yeah, there's 2 gas now.
And here we do have +1 weapons and 2 more gas dropping down for Squirtle before that Robo has popped up. He's going to have just enough for it here in just a second. No, actually allocating the resources back into Sentries for now, hiding a pylon back in the back so he can warp in units there to defend his third and can start some structures over there defensively if necessary.
Yeah, have to see what it'll be. And HyuN, what's his drone count at right now? Okay, so he's at 38. So yeah, a little bit behind where you would normally want to be with getting that 2 gases. Most Zergs go up to about 40, but he's going to be there very soon as this first round of drones finishes. And with Squirtle taking a 3rd base, he's going to have plenty of time to get that drone count up, most likely. And still no tech for Squirtle. He's going to be going for that 3rd Nexus really fast, it looks like.
Yeah, no more gateways either. So this is all being dumped into into just a couple of units for now. There, finally, some more gateways being put down. Gateways number 2, 3, and 4. About you would expect at this stage of the game. Ooh, he's putting down a Twilight Council. So 4 gate with Twilight Council, so we can start the +2 immediately.
Yeah, Blink will keep you pretty safe if your opponent does go for some sort of roach attack. So if he gets that fast enough, it takes away some of the worry, you know, that HyuN could bring at him at this point in the game. But HyuN, with getting that lair first, does kind of make me wonder if he is going for something a little bit higher in tech than just simple roach aggression. Have to see if he starts a +1 missile, and he does. So it probably will be, you know, maybe a little bit of roach pushing, but honestly, I think he gets +1 missile attacks and roach speed in like nearly every game I see him play in ZVP. Some Zergs will skip it here and there if they want to get some other tech a little bit quicker, but I don't think I've ever really seen him skip that.
And Robotics Facility is on the way, but started in such a way that he's not going to have those earlier Immortals or Observers out, but one that allowed him to jump into +2 and blink quite a bit faster. Didn't have to invest in those Immortals. Of course, 250 minerals, 100 gas. They are quite the investment, but oh so good against mass numbers of roaches.
Indeed. I mean, if your Zerg opponent just like goes Roach Ling against you and you're making Immortals, then as long as your force field's is good and you don't completely wander out in the open and get surrounded, you shouldn't have too tough of a time holding that off. And HyuN, one thing he does like to do, one thing nearly all the TSL Zergs like to do, is try to use Speedlings to deny that 3rd base, and his Zergling speed is very close to finishing too. So he does have some Roaches following this up. It'll take him a while to get across the map if he decides to go through with it, but you know, he does have an option maybe to get in there, try to get a cancel on that 3rd, but we'll see it. It's hard to tell just how aggressive he wants to be at this point. He's making a lot of roaches, though, but he's still doing some drones. Oh, yeah, there's a 4th and a macro. So, yeah, he's not going to go all in with this, I don't think. Is he?
No.
Oh,
Drops.
Okay. Yep, there we go, yeah. And he's actually getting it on time this time. in his first game against Genius in the GSL, he actually forgot to get drops, and it was one of the reasons why he ended up losing. But drops are getting more and more popular against Protoss players that take 3rds, actually. So this isn't too shocking that he's giving this a try.
Yeah, I was listening to Chef talk about it on stream a little bit the
really
other night.
Good.
So,
yeah.
Well, first Immortal is out. More on the way now. Of course, Blink is finished, along with +2 weapons, just about ready to end here. So the upgrades are coming pretty quickly for Squirtle. He's got a nice defensive position, but against those drops, it is so difficult to defend because you don't have a lot of anti-air power, and the drops, especially with pneumatized carapace, as we see on the way, Zergs can really just kind of pull the Protoss apart.
Yeah, he's going to have to do it pretty soon, though. I mean, as these gateways finish up, it's going to be a little bit easier, and that's cool. Squirtle going for a Dark Shrine. Interesting. I like the harassment capability that it's going to give him, but it's not something you see terribly often. Although I will say, I feel like I've seen more Dark Shrines lately in ZVPs than we have in recent months. What do you think?
I
feel
agree
like
with
we've
that.
seen more of them. Yeah.
I've noticed that they've been coming a little bit quicker in ZVP as well, or PVZ, I guess I should say.
Yeah.
You know, for the reason that it's a relatively low gas way to get yourself up to a pretty decent Archon count if you want to go for that as well. Yeah. And on top of it, just the multitasking that you force your Zerg opponent to do. I mean, we talked about Overlord drops and what those can do, but just being able to split up a couple of DTs at each base is so annoying, even if you're prepared with a little bit of detection.
Yeah, absolutely. And, that Overseer, he comes back on the rally point and stops right over that high ground, so he will escape. And Squirtle's moving out here. Okay, so it's going to be 3 Immortals and some Stalker and Sentries. But will this be enough? The force field's pretty good initially. I like how he used his Stalkers to kind of make part of the wall, saves a little bit of energy that way. And HyuN's going to need to be very, very careful about how he engages this.
And looks like he's just going to move straight into the main. There's a
works.
couple of Stalkers there. Do they see it? No,
no
not
idea.
quite yet,
Now
but
he does.
now he does. All right, so he's going to have to shift those units over. Right now he is. Few Blink Stalkers making their way in. It looks like he's actually just going to back up to a better engage, not try and pick off any of the Overlords before they drop down their units.
Yeah, the problem was he wasn't really able to drop them right on there, so force fields are still going to be an issue, but he's running those Roaches, right into the mineral line, going to do some decent damage there, but can he do enough damage to Squirtle's army that he doesn't need to worry about a counterattack? That's the big question after this is all said and done.
It was actually really cute to have those DTs in there, I have to say, because they're just doing damage. I don't know if HyuN realizes this quite yet. He's using a lot of roaches here. He's remaxing on basically nothing but pure roaches, but the DTs are just going to work on his army.
Well, you kind of plan on trying to end the game with a drop like this if you're a Zerg player, and it's just not happening for HyuN. And in fact, I mean, I don't think he really killed that many probes. Yeah, only 62 probes, or 64 probes rather, left 4, only killing 12. That's not a whole lot when your opponent is on 3 base and they can chrono boost out their workers so quickly with that. +3 attacks is on the way for Squirtle as well, while HyuN is still sitting on +1, I believe, for his roaches. And this could end up being a little bit tough. Yeah, just +1 missile attacks. That's his only upgrade so far for his army. Squirtle's going to have to watch out for his 3rd base, but we'll see. He's in a good spot for now.
Yeah, he's doesn't have a whole lot up at the front, though. It looks like the front is being tested by HyuN. He may be able to pick off that forge. Yeah, he is going to
get it
before +3 finishes. There we go.
I mean, that helps too, definitely. And I mean, this is going to be the strength of what HyuN can do right now that it's dropped into work, is he can try to just get his opponent out of position. But yeah, you got to be careful with that. Those force fields are so deadly. He didn't catch a lot with that round.
That was actually pretty good for HyuN there. I mean,
it was good for HyuN.
A lot of energy was wasted without a lot of units going down. So.
Yeah, that's the big thing he needs to worry about, though, is not getting himself in a situation where those force fields do trap off a lot of his army.
Yep.
A couple Archons, or one Archon rather, being made right now for Squirtle. Here comes another drop, but it's coming right on top of some Stalkers. Yeah, HyuN turning around as soon as he sees that. And I wouldn't want to drop in that either.
He still does have a lot of forces and is sitting on 4 bases, but of course the tech is very far behind at the moment for HyuN. He's got a lot of resources banked, so he will be able to reproduce his army pretty quickly. It looks like he's going to go around the side at the same time he attacks over at the 3rd, but Squirtle's pretty well prepared for both of these.
Oh, losing some Overlords, but he sent in some that didn't have any in them initially to draw fire. Great drop by HyuN, actually. Meanwhile, at the 3rd, that force was pushed back, as we can see from the mini-map and your screens as well. But HyuN is in the main base doing damage. The fact that he got a 4th base up relatively unopposed is really helping him remax quickly in this situation. And Squirtle is actually going to lose his Nexus here.
All right, so finally he's going after a couple of the bases. Yeah, Nexus in the main goes down. That's pretty critical for Squirtle right now. He's trying to bring some forces back, and he will eventually be able to kill everything that's sitting here inside of the main, no matter what HyuN does, but he just wants to pull away more forces so he can walk back into the 3rd. Unfortunately, that's a million Immortals just greeting him.
Yeah, I believe there was a Dark Templar that ran down to that 4th base, but I think it did get taken out. I saw a little blue dot going down. Yeah, it did a little bit of damage, but not a terribly high amount. HyuN's still very far ahead in supplies, putting down his Hydralisk Den. Squirtle has to remake his Nexus. That's going to slow him down from taking a 4th base potentially. So if HyuN can keep taking bases and not take economic damage from Dark Templar while he techs, he's still going to be in a pretty good spot. But I still really feel like this game could go either way. I mean, Squirtle's upgrades are really good. HyuN's got +2 missile attacks right now, but Squirtle is going to have +3, +1 armor very soon.
Yeah, now Squirtle is going to need a few more gateways here in a second. He's only sitting on 7 for now. One of them was taken out, and it's just not enough. I mean, he's certainly going to need a little bit more production added in there. His probe count is still quite high, but now HyuN's moving up to a 5th base, still with that pretty impressive bank.
Yeah, that's what he needs to do. Just keep taking bases, keep teching, make sure you have a big army, and make sure your opponent doesn't get a 4th. That's kind of what he needs to do. He needs to watch out for Dark Templar harass as well. It looks like Squirtle's getting a Warp Prism. That's something that could get him back in the game as well. HyuN thinking about pressuring the front or maybe the 3rd here. I like that. Overseer's above every base, making it easy for those DTs to not do damage, and he is really hammering this front.
Squirtle taking quite a bit of damage there. HyuN backs out without really losing anything, even bait some force fields out there to just kill 1 roach. So HyuN still finding a way to make this massive amount of roaches work, despite the fact that the army composition for Squirtle is quite good, but now he's so split up that he just can't bring everything together at once. However, Squirtle's army is really creeping up in supply.
Oh man, he's running into the main. He's leaving some units at the natural too. Most of the army for Squirtle is in the main as well, so these roaches may not be able to take this out with that immortal count. What is he going to go after, though? He needs to kill as much as he can. He's trying to take advantage of the fact that Squirtle is low on gas because he lost that Nexus for a little while and doesn't have the sentry count
Oh my
but
God,
this
those
army is
Immortals.
just getting annihilated. Yeah, this may have been a mistake for HyuN.
Yeah, a little too aggressive. I mean, he had done some damage up at the front, but then just couldn't do anything with the follow-up there. I mean, he took out that wall. Great. Could have tech behind it. It didn't really happen. Infestation Pit is done now, and he does have a few Hydralisks out, but look at this army moving across the map for Squirtle.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really know what HyuN was thinking there. I mean, I think part of it was, like I said, he knew his opponent had less gas because he couldn't really mine from his main base because the Nexus was gone for a little while. So in that situation, a lot of Protoss will make more sentries to stay safe, but Squirtle very intelligently made Immortals so that when that attack came, there were so many Immortals that they died very quickly here. But coming for a counterattack right afterwards, will it be enough? There are Hydras in with this army. I believe the Infestation Pit is finished,
yes,
although,
it is.
okay, and I don't think HyuN has made any Infestors quite yet, but that will be something that could end up being a factor soon. But you know what? HyuN's low on gas as well. He's been making Hydras. He's been making upgrades. It's still anybody's game at this point.
So, Squirtle's just sitting on 3 bases, hasn't moved up to a 4th quite yet. Oh, a few Overlords being taken out off to the left-hand side, loading up with a few forces in there, and yeah, it's just Hydras, Lynx, and Roaches on the field at the moment. No passenger glands being researched, no Hive Tech moving up either.
You know, I love that HyuN's doing this little Roach drop here. I've been really curious lately about how effective something like this could be with good Blink Micro like Squirtle is showing us. This one isn't going to be that effective, it looks like. But I wonder kind of about the future of StarCraft 2, how much we're going to see like smaller drops by Zerg rather than these just big mass drops every single time Zerg gets the upgrade.
HyuN going to make his way over to the 3rd, though. There's not a lot to defend against these small amount of Zerglings there. Yeah, and Squirtle rolling up. He's maxed, so he can't warp in any forces right now. He's trying to make his first Colossus at the moment. The Hydralisks are actually forward, and, well, because that's purely Hydralisks, never mind. So the Immortals would take damage from that pretty quickly, but it looks like Squirtle's able to hold for now.
Well, Hydras do their damage very quickly, but they're just not durable enough to go into like a heads-up fight versus something like Stalker Immortal. So I'm surprised he sent them all the way up there, and it's these little mistakes like this that HyuN's been doing that I feel like are kind of tipping the scales in Squirtle's favor, despite the fact that Squirtle's never really been able to get a 4th base up and running. He's still trying. He's got it building, but he hasn't been able to mine from it at all yet. And, a lot of those Hydras getting trapped right there. He's going to do some damage, but yeah, he needs to make a run for it, man.
Yeah, we may even see a little bit of an aggressive maneuver here from Squirtle. At the
Certainly
same time, he's dropping off to the left-hand side. Just a couple of Zealots for now, but it looks like he wants to engage up at the front. Throws down a couple of Force Shields, but didn't have a ton of energy around. Fortunately for him, though, the DPS of his army is just too high.
Yeah, you really need Infestors with something like that. HyuN going for a very unique composition, but so far, it just hasn't been able to handle what Squirtle has. So I feel like HyuN needs to get some Infestors out, but it's just too late. He doesn't have enough gas. These Zealots are just doing a ton of damage. They're costing him a lot of larva to have to make units to handle this. And Squirtle getting that supply lead now towards the end, and he's got Colossus on the way. He's finishing up +3 armor. He is going to have an extremely deadly army in a very, very short time.
And he does have that critical 4th base. I mean, so his income is going to be looking very, very good. As we can see, still on 61 workers through this whole process, and he's maxed, which means his army is pretty stellar. Colossi are being added in. There's already 2 up. A 3rd Colossus is on the way, and a few Archons are morphing in. So he's getting that critical late-game army that you're just looking for from a Protoss player.
Yeah, I mean, Squirtle has actually played this really, really well. I mean, he got caught unawares by the drop a little bit, but he's recovered so wonderfully with it. He's kind of been able to capitalize on some of the mistakes that HyuN's made in the later middle game, the early late game. And although HyuN is still, you know, close to maxed out, he's still got a strong army. I feel like Squirtle's going to be in a good spot, but there are 10 Corruptors ready to pop out. Almost right about now. 5 done, 5 more on the way. If HyuN can hold off until those Corruptors hit, he may be able to hold this. We'll see. It's going to be close. He's got the concave, but here comes Squirtle. He wants to attack.
It's still going to be extremely difficult one way or another. Yeah. But Squirtle certainly doesn't want to attack into a bad position either, but he's dishing out a little bit of damage to the units up in the front. HyuN going to go for it, though. He's got a few more Corruptors out now. One immediately gets picked off, and Squirtle hasn't really taken too much damage of his own.
Well, HyuN can't attack here. Absolutely can't attack here, and that's why. If you go too far forward, you're going to get force fielded. Squirtle wants him to attack so he can pull back into that choke and force field off part of the army. HyuN cannot attack right here. He has to sit back and defend. Squirtle's like, all right, I think you're calling my bluff. Well, he pulled back for a little bit. Looks like he might just go for it himself here. You know, I feel like the lack of spine crawlers for HyuN is hurting as well.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I mean, as we can see,
There's
just one
yeah.
lonely spine crawler sitting off to the side.
Yeah, a lot of Zergs lately have been relying on lots and lots of spine crawlers in the late game versus Protoss, especially on maps like Entombed Valley, for example.
Oh, and it's great.
And you can see why. Yeah, in a case like this, like 8 spine crawlers at each one of these chokes would really make it difficult for Squirtle to come into attack. It would give HyuN time to be making more than one Broodlord like he's only able to make right now.
Yeah, so that is pretty unfortunate for him, especially unfortunate that Squirtle sitting on 4 bases with a ton of gateways now, so we can see really nice gateway farms starting up. He's going to be able to remax his army incredibly quickly, especially with the map presence that he has.
This game is so crazy, though, because although HyuN didn't get Infestors, the amount of upgraded Hydralisks he had out is keeping Squirtle from attacking until right now. He's putting down some force fields. Is it going to be enough? That's a big concave for HyuN.
Yeah, hits corruptions on a few of those Colossi. Yep. One Colossus does fall very quickly. A second going to go down here in a second. But look how much damage has already been done to this army. The Colossi picked up 30 kills, I think, between them, and that is pretty much going to be it.
Oh, the Broodlord's getting taken out as well. I mean, those Colossi just take out Hydralisks so quickly that HyuN was not able to keep a big enough army. GG, a great first game, but Squirtle ends up taking it.